What's up, guys? It's Enigma Hood. I just want to quickly give my reaction to the Ferguson verdict. I am outraged, but I'm not surprised. This is what I've always said. If you do not satisfy people's need for vengeance, people will get angry, and that will lead to vigilantism and rioting. And that's exactly what happened. The reason for why we punish criminals isn't to rehabilitate them, like so many Americans like to believe. It's about satisfying the public's need for vengeance. It's not about satisfying the victim's need for vengeance. The government is not afraid of criminals. It's not afraid of the victims. It is afraid of the people. And that's evinced by the fact that Ferguson, as well as other police stations around the world, they militarize not because of criminals. That only happens in the movies, right? You know, in like Predator 2 and stuff like that, when they become militarized because of crime. That's fictional. In real life, they only militarize because the people rise up. And they rise up because they perceive corruption or discrimination from these government authorities. And that's exactly what's happening now. Why didn't the prosecutor indict this Darren Wilson fucker? Why did he hand it over to a grand jury? The prosecutor could have just indicted him. That was his choice. It's because he's corrupt. You know, he's biased. He's biased against black people. His father was killed by a black person. Do you really want a person like that as a prosecutor? Someone who's supposed to fight on behalf of a black person who was killed by a white cop? He intentionally sabotaged it. He didn't want to do this case. He wanted to dust his hands off and hand it off to the grand jury, who he knew weren't going to indict him. He knew that they weren't going to. That's why he did it. He's a piece of shit racist that's in a position of authority, just like the Ferguson police force. You know, it's so bizarre when you see these communities that have a certain racial makeup, like in Ferguson, where they're all black, and then you can have other communities, which are like Chinese communities, Indian communities, Hispanic communities. But over and over again, what we see is the police force is made up of white people, and so are the government authorities. The power structure is still white, whereas the neighborhood makeup is a completely different ethnicity. Why is that? So this is what people are angry about. They don't want to be controlled by a bunch of racists. They don't want to be controlled by a police force that's composed primarily of white people. Why are they all white? What, you have to be white to be on the police force? Why? Why is there only like 2 or 3 cops in the entire Ferguson police force? Why do they have this history of violence and police brutality that has never been addressed? These cops that are murderers, why have they never been punished? We have a cop that's a murderer, and he's not even going to be indicted. I mean, it's not over yet. He wasn't found not guilty, so double jeopardy doesn't apply here. I believe, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that he can be indicted again for the same exact charge. If not, he certainly can be indicted for violating Michael Brown's civil rights. And he can be brought up on federal charges. And so should the entire fucking Ferguson police force. That is a corrupt, racist organization. They are disgusting. And what happened in the aftermath and what's happening right now, all I can say is I knew that this is going to happen. This is the natural result. Getting on your soapbox and saying, oh, don't riot, don't riot. That does jack shit. That doesn't do fucking anything. That's not the point. The point is that when someone does something wrong, you're supposed to fucking punish them for it. When someone murders a young boy, you're supposed to punish that fucker for it. Instead, a lot of other people are suffering now because they didn't make the person who deserved to suffer, suffer. You know, think of it that way. Think of it that way. All right? You have two options. Either you can make a bunch of people who had nothing to do with that shooting suffer, which is what's happening now because they're looting, they're destroying property, and who knows, lots of people are being injured. Maybe some people are going to be killed who had nothing to do with that incident. Or alternatively, you can punish this murderer. Which would you rather have? You punish the murderer like he deserves. He deserves to suffer. He deserves to be killed. He deserves the death penalty for taking the life of someone else unjustly. Oh no, he was punching me in the face. Fuck you, you cocksucker. All lies. All lies. It's like what some pundits have been saying. These cops are given an exorbitant amount of time to make up a story. They can't the way it works with anyone else, as soon as they do the crime, they're arrested immediately. And then they're questioned, you know. And a lot of times they're not informed of their right to remain silent. So they're put on the spot to make up a story right on the spot, and they don't have time to do it. Here we have a cop who's a murderer who has plenty of time to make up a story and to verify it with other cops. That's the amount of corruption that's going on here. Unbelievable injustice. You know, corruption of justice. So I can't express how outraged I am. I really, really fucking hope they bring him up on federal charges. And I hope all of you understand why we punish criminals. Please do not make the mistake of thinking it has anything to do with deterrence. It doesn't have anything to do with mitigating recidivism. It has everything to do with satisfying the public's need for vengeance. If you do not satisfy the public's need for vengeance, this is what you get. You get what is happening in Ferguson. That is what you get. That is the reason for why the government punishes criminals primarily. Okay, there are other reasons, but that is the primary reason. It's because the government is afraid of the people rising up. This is Enigma Hood signing off.